Are there instances of the word and that are not conjunctions? Let's consider. Hello, I'm Chico, and welcome to the Philosopher Channel Introduction to Propositional Logic course. Last time we looked at conjunctions that did not have the word and in them. This time we're going to look at instances of the word and that are not conjunctions, and then we'll look at some instances of the word and that it's controversial whether they're conjunctions or not, and we'll look at that and see what we think. First, in our textbook, Smith talks about repetitive ands that just repeat for effect. So, I ran and ran. If you say I ran and ran, that's not a conjunction. You're not saying I ran and I ran as if like that's two true statements that you make, right? What you're really doing is just repeating for effect, or to say like I continued to run, right? That's really what that and means. I think he says it keeps getting hotter and hotter. You're saying by that it's a repetition for an effect, and that effect indicates that the thing just keeps on going. There's the and that's synonymous with the word plus. So 2 and 2 make 4. This is the same thing as saying 2 plus 2 equals 4. Interesting, I like this one, is the conditional and. Instead of saying if then, sometimes throwing in an and is the same thing as an if then. It's really bizarre, right? So these are the ones that are hard because you would think that you see the word and it's automatic conjunction, or if you see it and it's not a conjunction, then it's nothing. But it could actually be a conditional. So my example is study hard and you'll make a great logician. And that's just if you study hard, then you'll make a great logician, right? That's a conditional statement. There's also an and that can be a disjunction. So if I say the owner and his wife are allowed to be there, does that mean that they can only be there together? Usually when I say that, I mean like those two are the two people that are allowed to be there. They don't have to be there together. It can be the owner or his wife, right? I really mean a disjunction, not a conjunction. So, there's a case where sometimes we say an and we really mean an or. And that's an interesting one because legally speaking, courts will read that very literally. So if you put an and versus putting an or, they'll interpret that to mean they both have to be there, right? Like if there's like a case where I don't know why you would sue people like for that, but let's say you did, right? They would have to say, yeah, that is a conjunction and you have to interpret it as a conjunction, even though it doesn't make any sense. Now let's look at two funky ands, the chronological and an explanatory and. So first one, the chronological and. Let's say I am your father and I come home and I say, so what'd you do today? And you say, well, I went over the answers to the test with my friend and I took the test. I'm going to be like, wait, you cheated? How? What? You can't cheat? What, you cheated? No, child of mine. And you say, no, I never said I cheated. Why would you think I cheated? Because you said you looked over the answers and then you say, no, I never said, and then I cheated. Then I took the test. I just said I did one and I also did the other, right? And now notice like the way you say that when you said you did one event and then you did another event, it sounds like you're saying that you did one first and then you did the other one second, right? Sounds like it's chronological. So some ands seem like they come along with an order, whereas the conjunctions that we've been looking at are supposed to be interchangeable, right? It's supposed to be like if it's P and Q, that's the same thing as Q and P. This is, let's say, A and T, right? Answers and test. By what we've learned so far, that should be the exact same thing as test and answers. But if you said test and answers, I would have no problem with it. You say answers and tests, and I hear you cheated. So the chronological and seems a little bit different than the regular conjunction, and yet it also kind of seems the same. What gives there? There's also the explanatory and. If I say press the button and the whole thing will explode, what I mean is pressing the button causes the whole thing to explode. You can't swap that with the whole thing will explode and you press the button, right? That sounds backwards. Like how would you say that? Why would you say that? It matters what order you say it in, just like with the chronological one, right? So that seems funky because, like I said, with regular conjunctions, you're allowed to swap which one goes where, but here it seems like you can't swap them. So what gives? but they look so much like regular conjunctions. Are they regular conjunctions or are they something different? There are actually two major approaches to this. So the first one is called the ambiguity approach. And the ambiguity approach says that there are actually three different meanings here. There's the conjunction and, right, which is like, I like toast and I like cereal, you know? And you could swap those around and there's no problem with that. Or I like cereal and I like toast. So there's that meaning of the word and. That's our regular conjunction. And then there's these other two meanings. There's the chronological one, which means more like and then, right? So that's a different meaning than the regular and. So I took the test and then I looked at the answers. And then there's the and it caused. So I pushed the button and it caused the whole thing to explode. So those are three different meanings of the word and. It's just that the last two, you don't say those extra words. They're just sort of packed into that word and. All three meanings are analogous, but they're different enough to say that they're all not conjunctions. Only the first one would be a conjunction. Now, no need to panic here because there are also additional kinds of logic. So, for example, there's tense logic that would be able to take care of the chronological and then. However, I mean, tense logic just stinks. So, I don't know. If you're interested in tense logic, try the Introduction to Non-Classical Logics by Graham Priest. He does a really good job of teaching those non-classical logics. But don't do it until you're like well done with this course. You know, I mean, like those are spicy. So that's one approach. The second is the implicature approach. And this is that the word and actually means the exact same thing in all three cases. Univocal meaning, right? It means the exact same thing. Except that when you say it in the different contexts, it implies something new, right? It has a different conversational implicature. And this is something that we talked about in a previous class. So, for example, to say, I looked at the answers and took the test is actually the exact same thing as to say, I took the test and looked at the answers, except that when we're trying to communicate to people, we try to communicate in an orderly fashion. So we try to communicate chronologically speaking. So we imply that it's chronological, even though the meaning of our words don't give that, right? So there's one way we can look at that. Or, of course, in the case of the blowing up the whole thing scenario, saying that I pushed the button and the whole thing exploded implies causation because we're trying to say things in an orderly fashion. So you imagine that when I'm saying that, I'm trying to relay some kind of causation. Not that I pushed a button and then randomly the whole thing exploded for some totally different reason. So which approach is correct? We may never know. There is an argument that Smith mentions, the Grice's razor, and it's a popular philosophical argument to go with the simpler of the theories. So the argument goes like this. Ambiguity posits extra meanings for the word and. Implicature is already an accepted phenomenon, so it doesn't need to be posited. We should always choose the theory that requires us to posit the least amount of novel things, so we should choose implicature, right? So we should choose the implicature approach. Personally, I don't think this is a good argument. I think that it makes a category mistake. So look at premise one. Ambiguity posits extra meanings for the word and, right? So what it's saying is there are new tokens of the word and, right? Of the meaning of and, right? But it's not like there's no other kind of ambiguity. There's all kinds of ambiguity. So it's not saying there are new kinds of things. It's just saying that there are new tokens of things. And then premise two says implicature is an already accepted phenomenon, right? So when they're talking about that, they're talking about the kind of a thing it is, right? But we still would have two new tokens of implicature here. We have chronological conversational implicature relating to the word and causal conversational implicature related to the word and. So we are positing two new tokens. We're positing the same kinds of things as we're positing with the word and in the ambiguity approach. So I don't think we're really positing anything different than we are with the ambiguity approach. I personally do prefer. I really don't like these kinds of arguments in the first place. Like, these arguments are to say, like, hey, let's make it as simple as possible, and that's the theory we're going to believe. Does reality seem simple to you? I mean, I think these arguments came down to avoid Plato's forms when people were coming up with an infinite number of forms. And I buy that, right? An infinite number of things, okay, that's a problem. But if you're looking at two theories and one of them has like an extra thing in it, it's never the case that you have like two exact same theories and one just has one additional thing, but it's exactly identical to the other. You never have something like that. So, like, look at the two theories. If one has something extra, I don't know. Who cares? Just look at the theories. You know, which one's better? I don't like this argument in the first place, but I do prefer the implicature approach because we get to keep using classical logic. I don't know if it's right or not. You know, I don't know if they are different meanings for the word and. Maybe that is. But it works. It works to treat them both like the word and just to know, like, hey, but when you use it, like, that's not going to work, right? You can't use it this way. When you use it, you're going to imply that it's chronological. The last thing we'll look at is phrasal conjunctions. So a sentential conjunction is when a conjunction just connects sentences. So, for example, I like ice cream and I like pie. I and P. So that's a regular conjunction there. A phrasal conjunction, on the other hand, is when a conjunction connects words or phrases. So I like ice cream and pie. So notice no longer is it two full sentences. Now it's connecting two words. Ice cream, pie. Now sometimes we can translate one into the other. I like ice cream and pie translates into I like ice cream and I like pie pretty easily, right? So the one means I and P and the other one means I and P. Case closed. But sometimes we can't. So, for example, there are some people out in the world who have told me, I promise you, these people exist, that they only like pie when they can have ice cream with it. Otherwise, they do not like pie. I'm like, what? Why would you not like pie? I mean, I get it. Pie and ice cream does taste great together. However, pie by itself, why would you give that up? Just because you don't have ice cream? I don't know. But they say that. So, to say, I like ice cream and pie is not the same thing for them as saying I like ice cream and I like pie. They don't mean the same thing for them. So I like ice cream and pie for those people is not the same thing as I and P. Kind of weird. So in this case, we're going to have to make a simple proposition for them. We'll just like say maybe L, right? I like both ice cream and pie. In the book, Smith gives us some problematic ones too. And one of them reminds me, this one time, I think it was with my friend Stu. We were out hanging out and I was talking to somebody that I didn't know. And I can't remember what they said, but I said, Stu and I are married. And then I thought and I was like, well, not to each other. You know, I was like, it was so weird when I came out with it. I was thinking like, yeah, I don't know. I meant, you know, you don't usually say that. Stu and I are both married, but meaning we're both married men, right? We're married to other people, not to, you know what I mean? So saying Stu and I are married, but then if I said Mariah and I are married, Mariah's my wife's name. If I say Mariah and I are married, it's the same structure, right? But I mean, we're married to each other, right? So saying Stu and I are married versus saying Mariah and I are married are two different things. Saying Stu and I are married is the exact same thing as saying Stu is married and I am married. So S and I. But saying Mariah and I are married, it could be the same thing as saying Mariah is married and I am married. But really that's not what we're trying to say. We're trying to say Mariah and I are married to each other, right? So we can capture that in a simple proposition. We just say, you know, M, Mariah and I are married together to each other as its own proposition. But Smith points out that it's much easier to do this in predicate logic, which is something that we'll get to Lord knows when. I don't know, man. It's been a while. So we're going to get there eventually. I think you can fix this by saying, change this into two propositions Mariah is married to me and I am married to Mariah, right? So M and I. You could do that. I don't know. But predicate logic is way better. Another one is Jack and Jill are similar, right? That's one what's interesting because you can't break that into Jack is similar and Jill is similar, right? That just doesn't make sense. When you say similar, you mean similar to something, right? I think you could break that into Jack is similar to Jill and Jill is similar to Jack, but I don't know. Like you said, predicate logic is probably much better to handle this kind of stuff. Anyway, for next time, read 6.3.1, and I'll see you in that video. Adios.